Welcome to the Ask Dad podcast by Soul Bliss Empire with Rachel and Jim. This is the podcast where science meets spirituality, and our mission is to expand consciousness. You have arrived.
Hello and welcome back to Ask Dad. I'm Rachel and this is Jim, aka Dad. Tonight we are going to be talking about the power of belief and your intuition. So I'm just going to start with sort of talking about intuition and how in our society, it isn't really something that is promoted to be trusted, right? We're not told to, just listen to your intuition and it'll be right. Or listen to your body, which is really just how your intuition talks and it'll be right, or the right path to take. We're told to use logic and reasoning and rationale, which is all in our brain, mostly our right brain, I believe. And then the intuition, it comes from our heart, and then it is it is spread throughout the body. We feel it in many different parts of our body, but it's more the creative, the left brain, and so that's where the power of belief comes into play, is believing in your intuition and believing in what your body is telling you. And that's how belief becomes very powerful. And we talked about this before, how a very strong belief would be considered a conviction. And so if you are totally convicted that your intuition is right, then that means that you're going to follow it. And to be honest, I have seen a lot, especially in the last few years, I've seen a lot more coaches and spiritual leaders saying to trust your intuition, or often we say to follow your gut, and that's how they have become successful. It's following their intuition, but they had to first believe in their intuition before they followed it. Because if you don't believe in it, then you're not going to follow it. And you had a good example of this, and maybe I'll let you share it. With the Wim Hof breathing method and the pillars, and how you didn't really believe in it, so you didn't do it. So I'll let you start maybe with that story, if that's okay with you, and just sort of explain how your belief kind of helps solidify what was true for you.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. So I've just recently incorporated the Wim Hof method into my morning ritual and morning practice. So in addition to little meditation, little exercise time, little meditation time, then I've incorporated now the breathing. The cold shower is one of his pillars, and the breathing and is the second pillar. And the third pillar, he very accurately points out, is belief. You've got to believe in the whole process, in the bigger picture of why you're doing it, how it's just even physiologically, the breathing is, and the cold shower and the breathing is enhancing your immune system and your ability to know your body, to recognize your autonomic systems like your heartbeat and your body temperature. And of course, that's where Wim Hof is famous, is being able to regulate his body temperature, which is normally not under the conscious control, right? Our breath is actually the only autonomous, sort of a semi-autonomous, and we can also control it easily, is our breath. But our, heartbeat, body temperature, immune response, those kinds of things normally are not part of our conscious control. So that's where, but with his system of the cold showers and this breathing, is that you do slowly, with practice, start to gain control of some of those autonomic functions. And that's why, he was able to break 26 world records and hiked up. I think he ran a marathon up, I think around 15,000 feet in the Himalayas. He ran a marathon in shorts, no shirt. I think he said barefoot too. Like it's almost too incredible to even, it sounds wrong to say it. Like, how do you run barefoot at 15,000 feet and do a marathon? Like, it's just, it goes beyond, logic. But what he's doing is he's tapping into the, what the yogis would call the pranayama, and he's bringing in that the life energy, right? That surrounds us, right? And that the aura and the light energy that we have, and he's channeling it in, and being able to bring up his body temperature. And I think one time he was on stage and he was packed in ice up to his neck, packed in ice. Whereas normally anybody packed in ice would be dead in probably 4 minutes, 3, 4 minutes, right? You'd be unconscious. And the way hypothermia works is once your body drops, I think it's around 6 degrees, not very much, 6 degrees or so. And like, and then once it hits that level, it just spirals down, and you can't bring it back up again. And of course, and then once it starts to fall like that, your organs shut down, and that's it. It's game over. But he's able to overcome that, right? And so, but yeah, it's interesting how that that belief. And so then, I read this. I'd been exposed to this stuff like over the years, and every time I got exposed to it, I was like, "Yeah, this sounds so good. It's so simple." I remember taking a few cold showers, and then, oh, I don't know, cold showers are kind of uncomfortable, and you don't do it because you didn't believe. And now I, listened to the book, and it just hit me. I went, why aren't I doing this? This is crazy not to do this. And so now I believe, and so now I'm doing it. But it's like that with so many things in life.
Definitely. Um, and then that's a good segue into how if you don't believe something, how you're not going to do it, right? If it's like an action that you need to take it, right? And so I believe that is a lot of times why we often get we can get stuck not taking action, doing things. It's because we don't know for 100%. We don't believe that the action we're going to take is going to give us the end result. But that's where if we listen to our intuition, we don't have to know the end result. We just have to believe that this next step is the right step. And then you just keep taking that next step without seeing that whole picture, right? So that's trusting in your intuition to lead you in the right way, believing that your intuition is leading the right way. And another ways to look at it is kind of flipping it and looking at your limiting beliefs or a limiting blueprint, and how if you don't believe those exist, then you're never going to take a look at them to change them, to change those beliefs, right? But I would say, and I'm sure you agree, that most, if not all, people have some sort of belief that is limiting to them, and that comes from our social conditioning. So I don't know if you wanted to speak on that a little bit more, but how our if you don't believe in these limiting beliefs, then you're kind of stuck in changing them. You're kind of stuck in this one reality instead of reality being fluid. So if you wanted to speak more to that fluid reality and how limiting beliefs and that play into it.
Yeah, the image that comes to my mind is a window, right? You have a curtain over the window. The window is there. You can look out the window and you can, see what's coming. You can see the weather. You can see birds flying around. All sorts of things you can see out the window. But if the blind is closed or the curtains are closed, then you see nothing. And belief is kind of like just opening the blind, opening the curtains, and going, oh, what's like now I can see. So it's like if we don't believe in something, it's that we can see it without actually seeing it. And so that's the power of, and it's like, and like you say, the limiting beliefs, we have to believe in the word evil comes to my mind. But it's like or you can make it a little bit less dualistic and call it life negating. I like to use the terms life affirming, life negating, just to be, so it's a bit more of a spectrum, not just, black or white or good or evil. It's just, there's a tendency one way or the other, and it allows for a gradation of that idea. It makes it, I think, maybe a little bit more accurate to talk about and not as polarizing, and therefore useful, because you're not, as soon as you polarize something, the ideas can kind of close down. It can be restricting to the more expansive thinking. And And so if you have, if you can open up the curtains and go, oh, yeah, and that's, I guess when that's what we call being open-minded. And you want to be, of course, open-minded, but not, just falling into everything. You still need discernment. You still need, your experience and wisdom. Um, but, and I think that's where a lot of times we talk about, the childlikeness of, children, tend to be much more open. And as we get older, we tend to close. And that's certainly something that I enjoy going against. I like to stay open, even though, I've got uh, obviously some experience behind me. And but just staying open. And then there's a magic to that, to staying open and believing and being able to, and it's very confronting to actually see the evil or the life negating or the irrational, the chaotic, anything that's not um, going in a way that is positive and goes towards freedom and goes towards, people enjoying their lives and having free choice and all these things that are very expansive types of things. And you want to realize that there's a lot of things in this world that are constricting, right? That are closing in, that want to close down. And and that's something you want to believe in too. Like you want to, like, so when you open you're looking through the window, you can see, you can see good things and you can see bad things. And so you got to believe, you've got to believe both, and then be able to choose, right? And you go, oh, okay, if I've got something that's limiting me, like you're talking about the limiting beliefs, it's like, okay, well, what can I do to mitigate that, to relieve myself of some of those things, and be able to, to have more freedom, more psychological freedom, instead of being sort of, just in that, I guess you'd say somewhat of a victim of the intergenerational programs that we have, where we tolerate things like war and poverty and disease and pollution. Like, why do we tolerate that? And of course, most people don't want to tolerate it, right? We want to be rid of those things. And yet they persist. And so there's obviously something else in our, like you say, in that social programming, that those ideas grab a hold of. There's a ground where they can get a hold of, and then manifest into what we call reality, or what's normal. And of course, what's normal is just something that's happening frequently, but it doesn't mean that it's desirable or something that we would necessarily choose. But we have to, we have to open up our belief, like you say, to open up our intuition, because the intuition is actually a larger intellect than our rational mind, right? We have our right brain, actually, is the right brain controls the left hand, and vice versa, right? There's that switch.
Wondered if I mixed it up.
Yeah. So the left hand, which is the kind of the inflowing, right? That's the creative side. And so you want to be able to have that understanding and to have that belief. And like you say, you've got to, and the intuition is a great thing. If you don't believe your intuition, then, how many times we say, oh, I felt, I had a feeling I shouldn't have done it. And then you do it and you go, oh, it was wrong. I should have gone with my gut. Right. And it's because you didn't believe it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that happens a lot in this society. I know I experience it, and it's something that I am practicing and playing with, is to listen to my intuition more. That I don't have that. Oh, I had a feeling, or it's like I had a feeling and it was right, and I followed it, right? Because that's much more satisfying than the opposite. Uh, but let's talk about how belief and intuition play into a more fluid reality than what is talked about. Like, in our current society, in our science and all this, it's very much it's how it is. There's no deviation from this. And then we kind of label any deviation as woo-woo, right? Like anything metaphysical, anything that you can't really see that isn't measured by traditional mainstream science, we call it woo-woo. Even though other scientists can measure some of these things, it's just not become mainstream. And again, that comes down to belief, right? If you don't believe in it, then it's not true for you. But back to the fluid reality. So how does our belief in certain things make our reality more fluid? How does our belief cause us to be able to create our own reality?
So, and again, that comes, so what you have to believe is that what we're calling the normal world now is just a manifestation. But what's it a manifestation of? Right? It's a manifestation of because we have our better, like our, what we call our better angels, right? You could call it our biological core, which is our, our better angels, the peace on earth, goodwill toward man, love your neighbor as yourself, like all of these things that just, that we're all created equal and equal in the eyes of God. Like all of these axiomatic sayings that I would say, vast majority of people would go, yeah, no, of course, that's true. That's right. But then we have what Wilhelm Reich called these secondary drives, which is the millennium of that intergenerational manifestation, right? That's been there. So all of the reality is fluid. That's what you need to believe. And it just so happens that it seems to be very rigid because of generations and generations of being tolerant of war and cruelty and sadism and sexual perversion and sexual suppression and all of these things that have been so ingrained and have actually created what he called the secondary drives in our psyche, a subconscious, that the biological core has to go through and in some degree is distorted depending on the person's character. And I think you were saying, we are talking a little earlier, talking about how, a lot of it's how you were brought up as a child, and so if your biological core is very clear and if your upbringing was good and, you got to play and have a good childhood, then that's nice and pure. It gets somewhat distorted. And then we have the outer layer, which is our social politeness, that mitigates and enables the utter sadism and cruelty that's here, right? That Robert Burns called man's inhumanity to man in his famous poem, right? And a lot of people say, oh, well, we're just, man's just awful, and we can be so inhuman and stuff. And it's like, well, no, we're all three, right? We're the better angels, right? We're peace on earth and goodwill to men. We can be sadistically cruel and psychopathic to a certain extent. And then we can, depending on our training and our society and so on, we have politeness and we say please and thank you. And we open doors for people and, and we respect people because we have this training that helps to correct some of the distortion that we have in our secondary layers. So secondary drives. So as long as our biological core is fairly pure and our politeness is, our societal training is fairly robust, then the secondary drives are mostly brought into control. But then, of course, we have the criminal element in our societies. We have the cartels, we have the mafia, we have the gangs, we have just people, and then there's mental health issues, which, and then there's drug use and the drug use can, adds another layer of distortion and so on. But the motivation for the drug use and drug abuse is in that secondary layer, right? And so this is why we have this huge, gradation of human behavior. But what it all comes down to is that just because our normal reality that we call reality has been here for generations doesn't mean that it's not equally fluid. And that's why John Lennon and Yoko Ono said, war is over if you want it to be, right? It's fluid. It's fluid, baby. You can, you want this to just go away, this reality, then choose it. And if enough people choose it and manifest something else, then that'll be the new normal. Right. And now it's a great example with COVID, this whole new normal, but I hated calling it the new normal because it was worse. Right. It sucked. It was, wearing a mask and, interfering with your breathing. And then people, and then mandating, to inject yourself with some experimental medical injection that has no information on the vial. Right. It's experimental. So, it's like, no, I don't want that to be the normal. No, let's manifest something else. Like, it's almost like we just need to go, I don't like looking out that window. Let's look out another window. Like, and let's make a deal. Do you want the deal behind door number 1, or do you want the deal behind door number 2 or door number 3? Right. It's like you open up door number 1, you're like, oh no, I don't want that deal. And that's the way our reality is. And so just because the one that's come to us, that we kind of see in a linear way how our history goes. We had the First World War, we had the Depression, we had the Second World War, we had the Cold War, we had Vietnam, all of these things, that reality is fluid as well as any other reality that we care to manifest as a people. And the only reason we've manifested all these sucky ones is because we're ignorant of the fact that it is fluid and that we do have a choice to bring out something. And so war is over if you want it to be. Poverty is over if you want it to be. Disease is over if you want it to be, right? There's a whole nother realm of medical, medical philosophy, one of them being the Wim Hof method, right? The breathing alkalines your blood and all of a sudden your toxins are leaving your body and you're much healthier. So we have all of these things and so much of this is actually coming out that, it's just, I feel like it's on its way, but then there's always the status quo and the people that have the power and they want to keep the power and all of that ego stuff that they say, no, I want this reality. I want everybody to look out this window, and we're all going, well, I don't know, this window looks way better. We said, well, who opened the curtain on that window? Close that curtain.
Right.
No, it's open, man. We didn't see it.
That's what you call the awakening. It's like, oh, yeah, there are other windows, right? We have other options. But
the realities that we can manifest individually and as a group.
Yes. But you have to believe that that's possible, right?
You have to believe, you have to open the curtain. Yeah. You have to believe, just open the curtain and go,
yeah. Oh. What do you have to believe that there are other windows? 2, you have to believe you're capable of opening the curtain. 3, you have to do it.
Yeah, and sometimes we go like this and we just peek and we go,
yeah,
ooh, okay, I gotta close that.
Yeah, it's too good to be true, right? Right?
Yeah.
That's such a powerful thing. If it's too good to be true, it is, right?
No.
But it's what if it wasn't?
And maybe there's some, and that's like my experience with Wim Hof, right? I kind of looked and went, oh, that's kind of neat. And then I closed it up and I actually did it again. Like I looked and went, oh, really? Wow, that's pretty interesting. And I closed it. And then finally I just started seeing him everywhere. And I went, what?
And that was your intuition being like, open the curtain. Hello, open the curtain again. Right.
Ringing the doorbell.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. All you have to do is answer.
Yeah. Answer the door. The door.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. It kind of twigged for me. With belief, you have to be willing to be curious, right? It's like,
yeah.
With intuition, if you're using the analogy of the doorbell, if you're not curious who's at the door, you're not going to answer it, right? But if you're curious, you're like, what do they have to say to me? Then you're going to answer it.
Yeah.
Right. So the curiosity as part of the belief is important. And a lot of people, I think, have lost their curiosity because they've been burned before, right? As a child, usually. the saying, curiosity killed the cat. But then there's another part of that saying, right? I forget what it is right now, but it's totally like,
Satisfaction brought him back.
yes, that's what it is. Yeah. Well, we don't say that part of it, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, we've talked about the importance of language and how we speak, right? Like that's ingrained in us. Curiosity kills the cat, right? So why be, you want to be curious?
Yeah, it's a bad thing.
Well,
Limiting, limiting.
the half part of it, right? That's when we're looking through one window. You got to look through the other one. Satisfaction part, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fascinating subject. It's a big subject. You and I talk about this sort of stuff all the time and for hours. But I think we'll wrap it up here for tonight. I'll let you say what anything else that you want to say. One last thought to our viewers.
Yeah, no, let's move ahead. Let's stay curious, and let's be aware of the mind viruses that are coming in, and we call the things that want to grab a hold to us, like those spike proteins, and get into that area that we haven't cleared yet, and wants to manifest a scary, awful reality. Let's have our belief to cast those things out, and keep working on whatever those things are that are grabbing, like that we have, that are like our psyche. And let's be encouraged to clear those out and move into brighter future.
The visual idea of that is like tapping those things off is really coming back to our core and being more of ourselves,
Yeah.
less the conditioning, more of ourselves. And I think that's where people will find their true happiness.
Yeah. And then, just to, look and check us out on soulbliss.com. Soulblissempire.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll link it all below for everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you on our next episode. Good night.
Okay.